What's good, y'all? We're gonna read another 5 pages of Who Moved My Cheese. Been slacking on the reading a little bit. We gotta get back to it. All right, the first chapter, the second one. Having cheese makes you happy. Sometimes him and Hall would take their friends by to see their pile of cheese at Cheese Station C and point to it with pride, saying, "Pretty nice cheese, huh?" Sometimes they shared it with their friends and sometimes they didn't. "We deserve this cheese," him said. "We certainly had to work long and hard enough to find it." He picked up a nice fresh piece and ate it. Afterward, him fell asleep as he often did. Every night the little people would waddle home full of cheese, and every morning they would confidently return for more. This went on for quite some time. After a while, Him's and Hall's confidence grew into the arrogance of success. Soon they became so comfortable that they didn't even notice what was happening. As time went on, Sniff and Scurry continued their routine. They arrived early each morning and sniffed and scratched and scurried around Cheese Station C, inspecting the area to see if there had been any changes from the day earlier. Then they would sit down to nibble on the cheese. One morning they arrived at Cheese Station C and discovered there was no cheese. They weren't surprised as Sniff and Scurry had noticed the supply of cheese had been getting smaller every day. They were prepared for the inevitable and knew instinctively what to do. They looked at each other, removed the running shoes they had tied together and hung conveniently around their necks, put them on their feet, and laced them up. The mice did not overanalyze things. To the mice, the problem and the answer were both simple. The situation at Cheese Station C had changed. So Sniff and Scurry decided to change. They both looked out into the maze. The Sniff lifted his nose, sniffed, and nodded to Scurry, who took off running through the maze, while Sniff followed as fast as he could. They were quickly off in search of new cheese. Later that same day, him and Hall arrived at Cheese Station C. They had not been paying attention to the small changes that had been taking place each day, so they took it for granted their cheese would be there. They took it for granted their cheese would be there. They were unprepared for what they found. "What? No cheese?" him yelled. He continued yelling, "No cheese, no cheese," as though if he shouted loud enough, someone would put it back. "Who moved my cheese?" he hollered. Finally, he put his hands on his hips. His face turned red, and he screamed at the top of his voice, "It's not fair." Hodges shook his head in disbelief. He too had counted on finding cheese at Cheese Station C. He stood there for a long time, frozen with shock. He was just not ready for this. Him was yelling something, but Hall didn't want to hear it. He didn't want to deal with what was facing him, so he just tuned everything out. The little people's behavior was not very attractive or productive, but it was understandable. Finding cheese wasn't easy, and it meant a great deal more to the little people than just having enough of it to eat every day. Finding cheese was the little people's way of getting what they thought they needed to be happy. They had their own ideas of what cheese meant to them depending on their taste. For some, finding cheese was having material things. For others, it was enjoying good health or developing a spiritual sense of well-being. For Hall, cheese meant feeling safe, having a loving family someday, and living in a cozy cottage on Cheddar Lane. To him, cheese was becoming a big cheese in charge of others and owning a big house atop Camber Hill. Because cheese was important to them, the two little people spent a long time trying to decide what to do. All they could think of was to keep looking around. Cheese Station C to see if the cheese was really gone. While Stiff and Scurry had quickly moved on, him and Hall continued to him and Hall. They ranted and raved at the injustice of it all. Hall started to get depressed. What would happen if the cheese wasn't there tomorrow? He had made future plans based on this cheese. The little people couldn't believe it. How could this have happened? No one had warned them. It wasn't right. It was not the way things were supposed to be. Him and Hall went home that night, hungry and discouraged. But before they left, Hall wrote on the wall. Next chapter. The more important your cheese is to you, the more you want to hold on to it. The next day, him and Hall left their homes and returned to Cheese Station C again, where they still expected somehow to find their cheese. The situation hadn't changed. The cheese was no longer there. The little people didn't know what to do. Him and Hall just stood there immobilized like two statues. Hall shut his eyes as tight as he could and put his hands over his ears. He just wanted to block everything out. He didn't want to know the cheese supply had gradually been getting smaller. He suddenly believed it had been moved all of a sudden. Him analyzed the situation over and over, and eventually his complicated brain with a huge belief system took hold. Why did they do this to me? He demanded. What's really going on here? Finally, Hall opened his eyes, looked around, and said, by the way, where are Sniff and Scurry? Do you think they know something we don't? Him scoffed. What would they know? Him continued, they're just mice. They just respond to what happens. We're little people. We're smarter than mice. We should be able to figure this out. I know we're smarter, Hall said, but we don't seem to be acting smart at the moment. Things are changing around here. Maybe we need to change and do things differently. What should we change? Him asked. We're little people. We're special. This sort of thing should not happen to us. Or if it does, we should at least get some benefits. Why should we get benefits? Hall asked. Because we're entitled. Him claimed entitled to what? Hall wanted to know. We're entitled to our cheese. Why? Hall asked. Because we didn't cause this problem. Him said someone else did this and we should simply get some out of it. Hall suggested maybe we should simply stop analyzing the situation so much and go find some new cheese. Oh no, him argued. I'm going to get to the bottom of this. Karen. While him and Hall were still trying to decide what to do, Sniff and Scurry were already well on their way. They went farther into the maze, up and down corridors, looking for cheese in every cheese station they could find. They didn't think of anything else but finding new cheese. They didn't find any for some time until they finally went into an area of the maze where they had never been before. Cheese Station Inn. They squealed with delight. They found what they had been looking for, a great supply of new cheese. They could hardly believe their eyes. It was the biggest store of cheese the mice had ever seen. In the meantime, him and Hall were still back in Cheese Station C evaluating their situation. They were now suffering from the effects of having no cheese. They were becoming frustrated and angry and were blaming each other for the situation they were in. Now and then, Hall thought about his mice friends, Sniff and Scurry, and wondered if they had found any cheese yet. He believed they might be having a hard time, and running through the maze usually involved some uncertainty, but he also knew that it was likely to only last for a while. Sometimes Hall would imagine Sniff and Scurry finding new cheese and enjoying it. He thought about how good it would be for him to be out on an adventure in the maze and to find fresh new cheese. He could almost taste it. The more clearly Hall saw the image of himself finding and enjoying the new cheese, the more he saw himself leaving Cheese Station C. Let's go, he exclaimed. All of a sudden, No, him quickly responded. I like it here. It's comfortable. It's what I know. Because it's dangerous out there. Can't stay comfortable. No, it isn't, Hall argued. We're running through many parts of the maze before, and we can do it again. I'm getting too old for that, him said. I'm afraid I'm not interested in getting lost and making a fool of myself. Are you? With that, Hall's fear of failing returned, and his hope of finding new cheese faded. So every day the little people continued to do what they had done before. They went to Cheese Station C, found no cheese, and returned home carrying their worries and frustrations with them. They tried to not deny what was happening, but found it hard to get sleep, had less energy the next day, and were becoming irritable. Their homes were not the nurturing places they once were. The little people had difficulty sleeping and were having nightmares about not finding cheese. I think I'm gonna end it right there, y'all. 42. For my pages, man. Make sure y'all read y'all pages, man. Hope y'all enjoy this one. Hope y'all reading y'all books. Like, comment, subscribe. I catch y'all boys in the next one, man. Peace.